Hello, my name is Anderson-Andrei, and today we're going to be talking about assessment practices within our school here at Camp Ketcha. Thank you for joining me. Camp Ketcha, as you all know, is located in Scarborough, Maine. It serves youth ages 3 to 14 during the summer and has an outdoor education preschool during the school year on 107 acres of land, which is utilized by staff and children alike. Generally, when we talk about Camp Ketcha, we talk about how it serves the youth in an outdoor setting. However, even though it serves all populations, or tries to, the majority of the issues that we see within this program is that a lot of our support is not standardized, it's not streamlined, which means that every time we assess a student and observe, we reinvent the wheel. So what are we missing? The consistent assessment tools for students, a standardized process to assessment and further support around that, instead of remaking how we assess and observe. We need to work on finding a standardized form that we can use and process for every student while including the individualized student in our assessment. A stronger coalition with child development services, not such as is when we need them, but more as a pre-assessment tool of what they're looking for and what we need to be looking for, as well as consistent communication between the director and the parents. Camp Ketcha serves largely Caucasian students with very low numbers of students with IEPs, 1 or 2 per session, and usually no students who qualify for English language learner support. The population at large is mostly middle class and above due to the cost restraints of the programming provided. When we talk about Camp Ketcha and some of the goals that we want to see through this program, a couple that come into mind are screening tools that we can use to assess, observe, and ultimately support the students in our program. Hoover suggests that multi-tiered responses to intervention is becoming the preferred instructional practice to meet the needs of learners at risk and those struggling in school. The underlying part of this practice is that students must be provided levels of instruction that increase in duration and intensity as progress monitoring data indicates. So taking data, meeting them at baseline, and then as they meet those goals set, taking those goals, re-implementing them at a different or rate, and then continuing to take data, following through them throughout the program. Fundamental to this is over practice is the need for educators to gather, record, and chart data reflecting students' progress toward meeting established district curricular benchmarks and related objectives. So what that means for us is not just taking notes and observations on their IEP goals, it's also providing data, chart, numbers, so that way we can properly implement programming and progress for the student through their IEP. For our academic monitoring tools, we already observe, record, we create staff recommendations to child development services and their parents, and then have the parents through their insurance speak to CDS and have CDS then come and observe the child and make their own recommendations. So what we need to do for our academic monitoring tools is to create a streamlined way to observe students from the beginning and to use that tool every single time that we observe and assess. Progress monitoring assessments are formative assessments. With formative assessment, student progress is systematically assessed to provide continuous feedback to both the student and the teacher concerning learning successes and failures. They can be used to identify students who are not responsive to instruction or intervention screening and to understand rates of student improvement progress monitoring. They can also be used to make curriculum and instructional decisions, to evaluate program effectiveness, to proactively allocate resources, and to compare the efficacy of instruction and interventions. Progress monitoring tools should be brief assessments of direct student performance. Some of the behavioral assessment tools that we can use are to conduct interviews, conduct observations, generate hypotheses, problem solve, develop behavior support plans, monitor progress, and evaluate the progress that we see. So basically, what is functional behavioral assessment tools or functional behavior assessment is a concept that behavior serves some meaningful function, provides the foundation for understanding the assessment practice of functional behavior assessment, or FBA. For diagnostic processes and procedures to work, the program needs to be successful at setting clear guidelines, rules, and support for educators, CDS parents, and outside resources. Educators should have a streamlined approach to /plan to assessing and observing students, observation, assessment of skill, how they approach it, streamlined time frame to speak to parents and CDS. And then, after the needs are assessed, bringing support in as quickly as possible and going from baseline with continuous meetups for support. Many public schools and early childhood education programs have this, but I feel like this is something that Camp Catcha needs to work on in order to be able to fully support their students at any given time. Plans for consideration of cultural and ecological factors are wholly based upon the population in the program at the time. Knowing who you will need to support is the first step in providing support, but since it's varied and small, it's hard to support students until you know individually what they may need. Hoover says, as learners move across settings, their experiences become integrated, which further shapes the meanings. Initially developed in the microsystem, knowledge and attitudes become more refined, and as activities, roles, and relationships become more integrated through experiences across settings. Challenges the fidelity of implementation, at least in the programs that I have used in the past, revolve around analytic teaching, diagnostic, prescriptive teaching to help teachers understand what needs to be done in the classroom. For this particular program, it's only been implemented in the style and adapted for early childhood education or an after-school program situation, as that is population Camp Catcha serves. So it may not look like your typical analytic teaching assessment in its entirety. Fidelity includes multiple points of data and observation in order to help the educator and support to see where the student is excelling in their program and where they may need extra support. FBA includes uses of interviews, direct observations, reviews of student records to best understand student behaviors. Therefore, fidelity of implementation of FBA includes conduction of valid interviews, targeted observations, as well as considerations of relevant information that may be found in the learner's educational records. The support needed from administration, parents, colleagues to ensure effective implementation is that everyone should stay on the same goal, work together to provide support, and that we have a streamlined process in which to help children and youth receive the supports they may need to succeed in the classroom. This will ultimately create the best outcome for the child or youth who may need support coming through our program. Now, what do we need as a school to provide effective implementation of our programming? How can we best support our teachers and our staff and our administration? Well, a few thoughts that I have on this are to provide training on best assessment practices for early childhood education, tools that can be used to assess and observe that everyone can use instead of not just one person. As well as training on how to work with parents effectively and ask the correct questions out of child development services. What do I need to have this child get the appropriate speech services they are guaranteed on their IEP? This, among many questions, are important in how we are best going to serve our students. The recommendations that I made earlier would meet the school needs by making it so that anyone working at the school could provide effective assessment and observation of students' needs, create a way in which multiple agencies, support, and programming could understand how our assessments are conducted, provide much needed training to staff, administration, and parents, and make it so that students leave successfully maintaining and achieving IEP goals before heading off to kindergarten. Support for research-based assessments actually just basically come down to Hoover stating that the contemporary model of assessment within multi-tiered response to intervention can be viewed as a process that occurs along a continuum, processing from initial screening of all students and monitoring of the progress for a select group of struggling learners to individual diagnostic assessment for those who exhibit more significant needs. Essentially what Hoover is saying is supports the assessment model that I would like Camp Katja to take on, which to some extent they already do, but it would be really nice to see it have some strengths to it, as well as just streamlined assessments. 5 assessment principles will be met and complement each other by meeting all 5 assessment principles. Staff will work with administration, staff, and parents to implement strategies based off of IEP goals and goals that are set within the classroom. They will complement each other by serving as a benchmark for each other in the long run. So, essentially, this is just providing a way for students to be successful at every step of the process. So in conclusion, by providing continuous support to students through different means of assessment, we are providing a rich learning environment in which to successfully meet their goals. By providing continuous education and communication for staff, we are allowing those to be involved to be highly informed in the process. By involving agency and support specialists early on, we are allowing students the best access to resources. When we meet the needs of the student, we are allowing them an individualized way to grow and be kindergarten ready so that they ultimately do not need the support services from early childhood education on to go up with them. Because the idea would be to provide resources early so either they graduate out of the program or so that they are ready with minimal supports. Thank you for listening. I hope this was informative. Thank you and have a wonderful day.